janitor everyone ignored? What if I told you that the man everyone ignored became the man everyone respected? For years, people walked past him without even saying hello. They saw his mop. They saw his old uniform. But they never saw the dream inside his heart. This is the story of Michael Carter, a man who started with nothing and proved that even the smallest job can lead to the biggest success. Every morning at exactly 4:30 a.m., while most of Chicago was still asleep, Michael quietly unlocked the front doors of a large office building. The hallways were dark. The air was cold. The only sound was the squeak of his old cleaning cart. For the next 8 hours, he cleaned everything. He swept the floors. He emptied heavy trash bins. He polished glass doors until they shined. By the time the office workers arrived, the building looked perfect. But nobody noticed the man who made it that way. Some employees walked past him as if he didn't exist. Others dropped coffee cups on the floor without even saying, "Sorry." One manager once looked at Michael and said, "Just make sure this place is clean." Just. That single word stayed in Michael's mind for years. To them, he was just a janitor. But after work, Michael went home to someone who never saw him that way. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily. She would run to the door every evening and jump into his arms. "Dad, you're home!" Those 4 words made every hard day worth it. Their apartment was small. The wallpaper was peeling. The heater barely worked during winter. Sometimes dinner was nothing more than soup and bread. Yet Lily never complained. One evening, while doing her homework, she looked at her father and smiled. "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be strong like you." Michael smiled back. But inside, his heart broke. He wasn't worried about himself. He was worried about her future. He wanted Lily to have a better life, a warm home, a good education, a future without fear. So every night, after Lily fell asleep, Michael sat at the tiny kitchen table. He counted every dollar. Rent, electricity, food, school supplies. There was never enough. Still, he whispered the same promise to himself every night. "I'll find a way." Then, one cold Monday morning, everything changed. Michael was called into the manager's office. The manager couldn't even look him in the eyes. "I'm sorry, Michael," he said quietly. "The company is cutting costs. We have to let you go." For a moment, the world became completely silent. After 12 years of loyal service, he was gone in less than 2 minutes. No thank you party, no farewell gift. Just a cardboard box with his lunch container, an old family photo, and his name badge. As Michael walked out of the building for the last time, he looked back at the shiny floors he had cleaned every single day. Someone else would clean them tomorrow. But no one would remember the man who gave 12 years of his life to that place. That night, Lily noticed something was wrong. She looked at her father and asked softly, "Dad, did something bad happen today?" Michael forced a smile. "No, sweetheart. Everything will be okay." But after Lily fell asleep, he sat alone in the dark. For the first time in years, Michael cried. Not because he lost his job, but because he was afraid he might lose the future he had promised his little girl. The next morning, Michael woke up at 4:30 a.m. For 12 years, that had been his routine. But this time, there was nowhere to go. No uniform, no cleaning cart, no office waiting for him. He simply sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor. For the first time in years, he felt completely lost. Days turned into weeks. Every morning, Michael put on his only clean shirt and walked from one business to another. He filled out job applications. He waited in long lines. He shook hands with strangers. Again and again, he heard the same words. "We're looking for someone with more experience. We'll call you." But no one ever called. His savings disappeared faster than he expected. The refrigerator became emptier every week. One evening, he opened the kitchen cabinet. There was only 1 can of soup and half a loaf of bread. He quietly gave the soup to Lily. "I'm not hungry," he lied. Lily looked at him for a moment. She knew he was pretending. Without saying a word, she split the bowl in half and handed him a spoon. "We can share," she whispered. Michael smiled, but inside, he felt like his heart had shattered. A few days later, another bill arrived. The landlord placed a final notice on the apartment door. Rent was overdue. Michael folded the paper and slipped it into his pocket before Lily could see it. That night, after she fell asleep, he sat by the window. Rain tapped softly against the glass. He looked up at the dark sky and asked himself, "What am I supposed to do now?" The next afternoon, while walking through a nearby park, his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello?" A calm voice answered. "Michael? This is Mr. Thompson." Michael immediately recognized the name. Mr. Thompson had been the operations manager in the office building where Michael had worked years earlier. Unlike most people, Mr. Thompson had always treated him with respect. "I heard what happened," Mr. Thompson said. "I'm sorry." There was a short silence. Then he continued, "I've started helping a small company across town. They need someone honest, someone who works hard, someone I can trust. I thought of you." Michael closed his eyes. For weeks, every door had been closing. Now, one small door had finally opened. "The pay isn't great," Mr. Thompson admitted, "and the job won't be easy. You'll still help with cleaning. But I also want you to learn how to organize the team, manage supplies, and solve daily problems. No one will teach you. You'll have to learn on your own." Michael didn't even ask how much the job paid. He simply answered, "When can I start?" The following Monday, he walked into the new building. It was much smaller than his old workplace. The walls needed repairs. The equipment was old. The cleaning crew was unorganized. Some workers arrived late. Others argued all day. Several people looked at Michael and laughed. "So, the new boss is just another janitor?" Michael heard every word. He said nothing. Instead, he picked up a broom and started cleaning. Because deep inside, he knew something they didn't. This wasn't just another cleaning job. It was the first step toward the life he had promised his daughter. And he was determined not to waste it. Michael knew this job was different. He wasn't just cleaning floors anymore. Now, people expected him to solve problems. Every day brought a new challenge. One worker didn't show up. Another argued with customers. Cleaning supplies ran out. Machines kept breaking. Sometimes it felt like everything was falling apart. The pressure was overwhelming. There were nights when Michael didn't get home until after 10 p.m. Lily was already asleep on the couch, still wearing her school uniform. He gently carried her to bed, kissed her forehead, and quietly whispered, "I'm doing this for you." But the hardest part wasn't the long hours. It was the way people treated him. Some employees refused to listen to him. One man laughed in front of everyone. "Why should we follow a janitor?" The room filled with quiet laughter. Michael felt his face turn red. For a second, he wanted to walk away. He wanted to quit. But then he remembered Lily's smile. He remembered the promise he had made. So instead of arguing, he went back to work. Every night, after Lily fell asleep, Michael opened his old laptop. The internet was slow. The screen was cracked. But it still worked. He watched free videos about leadership. He learned how businesses saved money. He studied how great managers solved problems. Sometimes he was so tired that he fell asleep with the laptop still open. Then he woke up a few hours later and started studying again. Little by little, he began noticing things that everyone else ignored. Too many cleaning products were being wasted. The workers had no clear schedule. Some areas were cleaned twice a day while others were forgotten for days. Michael filled notebook after notebook with ideas. He created simple checklists. He organized supplies. He changed work schedules. At first, nobody cared. Some even threw his papers into the trash. "Stop acting like a manager," one coworker said. "You're still just a janitor." Those words hurt more than anyone knew. That night, Michael sat alone in his car before driving home. He looked at his rough hands, hands that had spent years holding mops and garbage bags. For a moment, he wondered if everyone was right. Maybe this was all he would ever be. Then his phone buzzed. It was a message from Lily. "Good luck today, Dad. I believe in you." Michael read those 6 words again and again. Tears filled his eyes. He wiped them away, started the engine, and drove back to work with a new determination. The next morning, he asked Mr. Thompson for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. He showed him his notebook. Every idea, every schedule, every small improvement. Mr. Thompson stayed silent as he turned each page. Finally, he looked up and smiled. "Michael, I think you found something that could change this company." Michael's heart began to race. He had no idea that this meeting was about to change his life forever. The next morning, Michael walked into the meeting room with shaking hands. For the first time in his life, he wasn't carrying a mop. He was carrying a notebook filled with dreams. Around the table sat company leaders, people in expensive suits, people who had years of experience. Michael took a deep breath. He looked down at his notes. Then he looked up. Instead of speaking like a businessman, he spoke like a father. "I don't have a college degree," he began. "I've spent most of my life cleaning floors. But when you clean the same building every day, you begin to notice the small things that everyone else misses." The room became completely silent. Michael explained how supplies were being wasted, how better schedules could save time, how teamwork could improve quality. He wasn't trying to sound smart. He simply shared what he had learned through years of hard work. When he finished, no one spoke for several seconds. Then one executive slowly smiled. "I think this is exactly what we've been missing." Over the next few months, the company tested Michael's ideas. The results surprised everyone. Cleaning costs dropped. Customer satisfaction increased. Employees worked together instead of arguing. The company saved thousands of dollars. Soon, Michael received a letter. He opened it with nervous hands. It was a promotion. He was no longer the janitor everyone ignored. He was now the operations manager. That evening, he walked into the apartment holding the letter behind his back. Lily looked at him and smiled. "Dad, why are you smiling like that?" Michael handed her the letter. She read every word slowly. Then she looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "You did it! I knew you could!" She threw her arms around him. For a long moment, neither of them said a word. They didn't need to. A year later, Michael made another bold decision. He started his own cleaning company. People thought he was taking a huge risk. But this time, he believed in himself. His first employees weren't people with perfect resumes. They were hardworking people who had been overlooked, just like him. Single parents, older workers, former janitors. People who only needed one chance. Michael treated every employee with respect. He knew exactly how it felt to be invisible. Years passed. His company grew from one small building to 10, then 50, and eventually hundreds of businesses trusted his team. One afternoon, Michael returned to the same office building where he had once cleaned floors alone before sunrise. This time, he arrived as the owner of the company providing the cleaning services. As he walked through the lobby, a young janitor was quietly mopping the floor. Michael stopped. He smiled. "Thank you for your hard work." The young man looked surprised. "No one has ever said that to me before." Michael gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Never let anyone make you believe you're just a janitor. A job doesn't decide your future. Your character does." That night, Michael and Lily stood outside the company's new headquarters. The building wasn't the greatest achievement. The greatest achievement was the journey. Lily looked at her father and whispered, "Remember when we used to share one bowl of soup?" Michael smiled with tears in his eyes. "I'll never forget, because those days taught me something money never could." He looked up at the stars. Then he quietly said, "Success isn't about where you begin. It's about refusing to stop, even when the whole world believes you should." And from that day forward, the man everyone once ignored became the man everyone remembered.